The trade deadline is almost here in the NBA and the center market. It is coming into focus. The asking prices now being revealed for a number of the bigs out there on the market. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe to the channel right now. Only about 20% of you watching this are subscribed. Other 80%, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. It's free. Don't think you'll regret it. Donnie Freeman joining me. Donnie, I do think that the center market, it's pretty robust in the NBA right now, but I'm a little concerned about how high asking prices are for some of these guys that we're going to get into.
Yeah, they're playing, man. They don't actually want to trade these centers. They're out there they're saying, oh, this guy's available, but, you got to give us an arm, a leg, everything. But, we'll see what happens ultimately. They'll ultimately come down, of course. But right now, now is not the time to make a trade if you're a team needing a center because these asking prices are crazy.
Well, as we talked about on our last video, I think some of the market is a little bit frozen right now due to the Jimmy Butler situation. So many teams want to be a third, fourth, fifth, who knows, maybe sixth team in a Jimmy Butler trade. But once that situation thaws, I think we're going to see more activity and maybe prices drop down a little bit. 'Tis the season. This is usually the time of year when prices start to get more realistic. But according to Mark Stein, right now, they're still up there. We've got to take a look at this. We've got this situation. League sources stressed over the weekend the Lakers aren't going to be our Lakers are not interested in Vucevic or Jakob Poeltl, in part because of the asking price. And right now, the asking price for Nikola Vucevic, it's a first-round pick from Chicago, and Poeltl is expected to get more than that. Now, I like Jakob Poeltl. I would think his value would be higher than Vucevic, but a first-round pick for Vucevic at 34 years old, I know a lot of teams out there, the word a few weeks ago was that they had pegged his value from the buyer's side at multiple second-round picks. So it seems like there's a bit of a standoff here. Chicago demanding a first for Vucevic, opponent saying, no, we're only giving seconds. Could this prevent him from being moved, and could it stop Poeltl as well from being on the move?
I think Poeltl is more likely to stay where he's at, but with Vucevic, I think that there's too many reasons for them to come off that contract. When you talk about what they need to do with their own draft pick, when you talk about the potential, it apparently already started, but the fall off in terms of his shooting percentages and the age and all that stuff, I think he's going to wind up getting moved for sure. The first is I don't think anybody's going to give a genuine first-round pick for him, especially if it's not crazy protected. It's going to be one of those fake firsts, in my opinion. But I think they've got to move him. But Poeltl, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't move him, to be honest.
Yeah, no, if I'm Toronto, I probably wouldn't move him unless somebody does really impress me with an offer. I want to talk about Walker Kessler in just a minute, too, because we got some news there. But first, quick shout out to our sponsor. That is Prize Picks, Daily Fantasy. A lot of fun to play, and if you guys use our promo code, which is Bulletin, you get a guaranteed $50 on your first $5 play. You can find the link in the description down below for Prize Picks. Super, super easy to play, too. We've got, obviously, the Lakers-Hornets game tonight. You've got some plays on that one. I'm looking at LaMelo Ball at 27 points. You know what? He can be such an errant shooter. I think I'm going to, even though it's against the Lakers, if it was in L.A., I think I would say more on this. I think I'm going to say he gets less than 27 points tonight.
I think he's letting that thing go. He's shooting 35 shots, personally.
You think he's going to take 35? But does he make enough of them? Well, that's the question.
Happens. Oh, the LeBron line's easy.
Oh, yeah, I like that one.
That's easy.
39.5. I think he gets that one.
The only way it doesn't happen is if they absolutely blow out, but they don't typically do that very often. No, they're not a team that tends to do that. Any other ones that we like? Ooh, Cade Cunningham against Cleveland. I like Cade Cunningham a lot, but I kind of like this. 42 points, rebounds, and assists. I think Cade's going to show up pretty big in that one. So I'm going to go there with Cade Cunningham. But that's how easy it is, everybody, to play Prize Picks. Super, super easy. Go on there, make your selections. Again, use the link in the description down below and use our code Bulletin. Great way to let them know that you came from us. Great way to help support us, support our growing channel here, and get a great deal. Again, guaranteed $50 on your first $5 play. All right, Donnie, let's talk about one of our favorite targets for the Lakers and just about any other team that's out there. Any team.
Walker Kessler. Man, he would be a great fit in so many places, to the point where you wonder, why is Utah even looking at trading him? Well, according to Mark Stein, again, maybe they aren't. essentially what's happening here on the Walker Kessler front. The Jazz, he's believed to be as close to unavailable as it gets with less than 10 days to go. Now, we've heard that the Jazz are asking for a really high return for Walker Kessler. And you hit a point, Donnie, sometimes where what you're asking for is so high that you're essentially sending the message that you're not actually going to make a trade.
Yeah. I think that's what's happening here. When you say as close to as possible means, to me, that reads that, oh, if you're going to overpay like crazy, we'll do it. But otherwise, we're not going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the situation. And look, Kessler's been great, been one of the best shot blockers in the NBA this season. Personally, I love that he can do two things. He can block shots and he can do it without fouling. Usually that's not a combination that goes that well together, but Kessler can do that. And the great thing about Walker Kessler is beyond just what he provides on the floor, look how far down I have to scroll to hit his salary. What this means is anyone can trade for him. Anyone can, in terms of making the math work, he's only making $3 million. So any team can trade for Walker Kessler in terms of matching salary. Super, super easy to get to. But the Jazz, their asking price, and maybe rightfully so, is extremely high. So if the asking price is a first for Vucevic, if it's, is it a young player in a first for Pirtle? Kessler is all but off the market unless some team does something stupid. That takes a decent chunk out of what looked like a very robust center market.
The Kessler, when you lay it out like that, it sounds like they want, like, if you're the Lakers, they want both your first, they want Dalton as well, they want protections removed from your previous first, like they want everything that you could possibly give, is what it sounds like. And some of that could be potential Laker tax, though Danny, he did help the Lakers a couple years ago, so I don't know.
Well, but that's part of the reasoning for why maybe they wouldn't trade with, because they don't want to devalue that future Lakers pick by making them any better.
That's one thing I don't hear talked about enough, is that they're potentially making their own assets worse by trading with the Lakers again, because they would have that pick. Like if they give Kessler, who's not only a great rim protector or anything like that, he's one of the best offensive rebounders in the league, rebounders in general, very imposing guy. I think has a very high floor defensively, to be one of the better defensive centers in the league, and is, I think, moldable on the offensive end, in that he's going to be able to do what you need him to do, and maybe eventually adds like a 15-foot shot, and that'd be great for him. And I think he'd have a long NBA career. And if he winds up being really good, if you're the Lakers, well, they potentially just added a few wins to your record. Maybe you were going to be worse otherwise, and that devalues their pick, or multiple picks if they make another trade for this. So I don't know that that's talked about enough. But yeah, I think that they want everything for him. So you may have to pivot to some of the other guys in the market, like a Valanciunas. But the market, it's kind of, like you said, robust, but it's also kind of dwindling, because while some of these guys I think will get traded, like I said with Vucevic, I don't know if Pirtle does. There are other names potentially on the market. Gafford, I think, is off the market now, especially now that the last Kleber. But Turner, I don't know what's going on there. I imagine they still find a way to keep him and work things out, because it would be really hard for them to trade him, get back a center, and stay as good or get better than they are right now. I think that's really tricky for them to do. So I don't really know what's going to ultimately wind up happening. But Kessler is interesting because the salary number, it's just the asking price.
Yeah, he's very, very easy to make a trade for, but the problem is, again, like you said, that asking price. I do think when push comes to shove, we'll probably see a Vucevic trade by the deadline. What we need to look at is who is a motivated seller here. The Wizards should be a motivated seller with Valanciunas. The Bulls should be a motivated seller with Vucevic. The Hawks should be a motivated seller with Capella. Will that become something? We'll have to keep an eye. He's actually an expiring salary, so maybe something to watch there. But like the Raptors can say, well, we don't have to trade Jakob Poeltl. You have to really impress us with an offer if we're going to trade him. The Jazz, they don't have to trade Walker Kessler. And so I think what this is going to do is it's going to put more of a shift towards the teams that are willing to take back not first-round draft capital. Teams have been so reluctant to give up first-round draft capital under the new collective bargaining agreement. So if it's Robert Williams and you can get him for an expiring in seconds, something like that, similar to what we saw with the Nick Richards trade, I think then he'll move, right? But if it's Portland wants a first, then he probably doesn't. Same thing with Valanciunas. And there had been some talk that Valanciunas, the thought was you can get him for a contract and 1 second. And now it's become, well, no, the Wizards want 2 seconds. Over the next 10 days, does that drop back down to 1 second and then you find a deal, right? Like, so I think there will be movement as we get closer to the deadline. But hearing that Poeltl, Kessler, that these teams that rightfully maybe don't have to move them, maybe that does take a little bit away from what looked like a really exciting center market, unless a team ups their offer. And right now, teams are just not willing to up their offer when that has to include first-round draft capital.
We've not seen a first-round pick moved yet.
No.
So I think that with that being the case, with the market being what it is at, decent players, role players are getting seconds, that I don't know that you're going to be able to ask for a first, let alone multiple firsts for anybody on the market. And for Kessler specifically, because he is a bit of a unique case that he's a young guy, hasn't even got his next extension. So I can understand why the asking price will be high on him, because I've said all along, I think it's stupid for him to be on the market personally. I think that while they drafted Filipowski, while they've got a lot of bigs over there, they can kind of make that work. I think they can put together something and he fits their timeline. I don't really know why he would be moved personally. I don't think they have to do that. But for some of these other guys, it's going to really get interesting to see what the asking price could be. And I think you're going to wind up maybe potentially even seeing some trades for guys you probably don't even consider, that are just second string centers or third string centers, maybe not getting a lot of burn, or maybe some
Daniel
4
Tice.
or 5. Yeah, like maybe some 4 or 5 guys like a Larry Nance. Like you're going to see some of these guys maybe get moved that you're probably not even thinking about right now. I don't know if it's going to be all the big name guys, but I would think Val gets moved. I think that asking price goes down, but we're just going to have to wait until we get closer to the deadline, because like you said, the market is frozen. And I like the word play earlier. And when it thaws, I don't know if you noticed you did that.
That was intentional.
Okay.
That was intentional.
Okay. I got my bad.
I wasn't going to let it go.
Game. I wasn't familiar with the game. Crap, my bad. No, but when it thaws out, I think these guys will finally wind up being moved, and maybe some of these guys can even be part of like a big multi-team trade too. Who knows what ultimately happens?
Sure. Yeah, we could see that. So like you said, I think it's 2 things. I think we got to get closer to the deadline, which we're getting there. I mean, 10 days, we're getting down to it here. And then the Jimmy Butler situation. Once that gets resolved, or we'll hit a point where teams say, you know what, screw it. We can't wait on Jimmy anymore. We're making the moves we need to make. One of those 2 things, either the Jimmy Butler situation gets resolved, or teams hit their breaking point and they say, we're not waiting anymore and we're moving on. That's got to happen. And then as we get closer to the deadline, of course, that will trigger some of those things happening too. So, I mean, look, I think we're going to see a pretty active trade market, but I think we're starting to see a divide between the centers who are on teams that are going to be motivated sellers and those that are on teams that are not. And in that column, we put Jakob Poeltl, we put Walker Kessler. I do still think the Bulls move off of their asking price, or if they do get a first, it's a heavily protected one for Vucevic. But man, I think we're going to get a fairly exciting trade deadline here in the NBA. So everybody give us your thoughts in the comments down below, and make sure you go check out our latest video, which is on the Jimmy Butler situation, him potentially landing now with the Bucks and maybe Bradley Beal to the Bulls. What the hell is going on? Go check that out. Click on it right now.